Welcome to the Brigham Young University Family History Library webinar series. My name is Braden Knutson. I'll be your host for this webinar today. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us for another webinar with Bob Taylor. As we go through some of our announcements, we'd like to ask you to participate in some of the polls we have down at the bottom of the screen. We'd love to hear what topics you'd be interested in covering and in us covering. It helps us continue to provide good webinars for everyone, so that's always appreciated. We are currently working on our November webinar schedule, and that will be posted onto our website within the coming week, so keep your eye out for that. If you have any other feedback for us in the meantime, between webinars, feel free to email us at fhl_webinars@byu.edu. We always appreciate the feedback. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted onto our YouTube channel. You'll be able to come and watch the video again, and if you missed anything, you can go and watch it, share it with your friends. It's always a good learning resource to have a recording. So today we'll be pleased to hear from Bob Taylor, who will be giving a presentation titled Family History Activities with the Family History Guide. Bob Taylor, CEO of the Family History Guide Association, has been actively doing family history for over 25 years. He has combined his passion for genealogy with his background in instructional design to produce a new learning resource for family history, the Family History Guide. Bob earned his bachelor's degree from Brigham Young University and master's degree from California State University, Los Angeles, both in music education. He has been a featured presenter at Roots Tech 2016, UV Tag, and the BYU Family History Conference, in addition to numerous family history fairs in Utah. A career change led him to instructional design and technical writing, where he has worked for large technology corporations such as Novell, Intel, and Western Digital. At Intel University, he redesigned key training courses for employees and managers worldwide, as well as teaching management courses in Washington, Arizona, Oregon, California, and Utah. He has authored many online and written learning systems, helping others accelerate learning in technology, music, and family history. Bob and his wife Susie have 5 daughters and 6 grandchildren. And as we let Bob get set up here, we'd like to remind everybody that there is a comments box and a questions box on the right-hand side of the screen. Feel free to submit any questions during the presentation, and we will turn the time over to Bob.
All right, everyone, I'm pleased to be here, and this is an exciting part of the Family History Guide. It's fairly new, and we're excited about it. Family Activities with the Family History Guide. Here's the website, www.thefhguide.com. So the first step that we took, back in 2015, we added a children's page to the Family History Guide. And that was a welcome addition. We were able to provide some activities for younger kids and youth, as well as some motivation and coaching strategies for parents. We got a lot of good feedback for that, and we featured that in Roots Tech and quite a number of family history fairs as well. Still, there were activities were missing for other family members. We had some interesting conversations about this with people. We had a nicely developed children's page, but when it came to youth, basically we would tell them to go check out the Family History Guide itself, and there wasn't anything specifically there for them. So we started thinking about that, and we knew we needed to address a gap that existed there. So the next step, in spring of this year, we added a new Facebook page, the Family History Guide for trainers, consultants, and directors. And as a byproduct of that, I started up a feature of the page called Friday Fun, which would highlight fun family history activities. And I did a few weeks of that and thought I had some pretty good ones. But as it turned out, I discovered a much better source for family history activities. And so I discovered a Facebook page called Ideas for Family History Fun. And the columnist for that is Angel Anderson. She took over the Friday afternoon column on our Facebook page, and it immediately took off and did much, much better than what I had been doing. So the third step, here's Angel, and in the summer of 2017, Angel joined the Family History Guide staff as our Family Outreach Coordinator. So she and I worked for several months to collect and organize family history activities for families, singles, youth, and children. So instead of there just being one area for children, now we have activities for complete families, for single adults, and for youth as well as children. And the new activities pages were added to the website in September of this year. So they've just been up on the website for over a month. Some people may be wondering, well, why add activities to the website? This is not your typical genealogy strategy. So do they detract from the site or do they add to it? My opinion is definitely they add to the site. So these family history activities can actually be an entry point or a bridge to family history for children, youth, and entire families. And as you probably know, the mission of the Family History Guide, we want to bring family history to many more people around the world. And we've been successful in doing that to a point, but there's still much more work to do. We have what we call the 3 E's: easier, efficient, and enjoyable. And activities play a great part in the 3rd E, which is enjoyable. Also, family history activities create connections to the past, and they strengthen relationships in the present for those who are participating. So there is a how and a why for family history. Family History Guide website has some great information and explains the hows of how to do family history. You're familiar probably with the projects, goals, choices, and steps in the Family History Guide. And those have proven to be very successful and helpful for those who use the website. The activities pages now help to strengthen the why of family history. They emphasize connections, fun, history, and relationships. And we think that's a big plus. So let's take a look at the new activities pages in the Family History Guide. I'm going to exit the PowerPoint and jump over to the website here. This is www.thefhguide.com. So the way that we're going to find the activities is in the miscellaneous menu here. But before I do that, I think I'll make a brief commercial announcement. If you look over here in the main part of the page, many of you have seen this, but I would like to announce that the Family History Guide Association is now an official public charity organization. We have approval from the IRS to be an official public charity, so that means that people can make donations to the Family History Guide Foundation, and they are tax deductible. That opens the way for a lot more donations because a lot of people, of course, are interested in having a tax deduction for their donation. So we're pretty excited about that. We just got that grant from the IRS last week. Okay, back to business here. So in the miscellaneous menu, about halfway down, you'll see a section called Activities. And here are the 4 areas that we were talking about: family, singles, youth, and children. So I'll go ahead and click Family here. That takes us to the Family Activities page. First, a bit of navigation help. You'll see up at the top here, you have links to 8 different sections: Anytime, Plan Ahead, Making Family History, and so forth. You can click these directly and go to that particular section. Also, if you want to switch gears and go somewhere else, like to the singles page, youth page, or children page, you can do that here or up in the heading as well. And we also have a resources for parents link that I'll talk about a bit later. All right, here are the categories and the particular family history activities. First of all, anytime activities and games. These are good to go pretty much at the drop of a hat. They don't take a lot of advanced preparation. Wherever you see these codes here, these are IDs that help you organize and keep track of where the family history activities are. When you see star steps, you can click that and it expands out into a list of instructions, and click it again and it closes. So this family history fun basket is pretty cool. Basically, you find a container and you look through this area of this page for games and activities, select the ones that you would like to try, and you write down the activities on slips of paper, and basically someone pulls them out of the hat for the container and you're on your way. You'll notice here that we have occasionally these links. This is to Family Search or to Ancestry. There are other links here you'll find, like to Ancestry, MyHeritage, Find My Past, and so forth. So basically, when you click one of these, if you wanted to learn more about stories, for instance, this is the All the Stories app, and use stories you've recorded and so forth, you could click this link here and it would take you directly to the how-tos. So if you're interested in how do I write stories, how do I get them recorded, one click takes you to the corresponding page in the Family History Guide for learning how to do that. It's in a separate window, so you can close that up when you need to. Okay. Google Maps, Google Earth, this is a fun one. I'm going to skip down here to Street View Stories just as an illustration. Click here, and a lot of these activities go to different websites, of course. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this is a lot of fun. Basically, it gives you some steps to follow to create your own Street View story. The idea being that you can think of a place that has a particular fond memory for you, and you can type it into this website and actually take a screenshot of the place, save it to your computer, and even share it online and so forth. And here's an example here of a snapshot and what they wrote about it and so forth. So that's an example of one of the activities. Obviously, we won't be going through all the activities. That would cause about a 6 or 7 hour webinar, and I'm sure you have other things to do this evening. But we will go through a few just to illustrate different points that you might be interested in. Okay, we're going to scroll down here. Plan ahead activities. These take a little bit more preparation. Ancestor guessing game. You could pull ancestors' names out of a hat, prepare a little bit about your personal recollections or stories about them, and then guess who you're trying to portray. Genealogy. This is fun. This is actually from Family Search App Gallery. And you can see here you've got your Genealogy, or kind of like Jeopardy board with categories and questions and so forth. And this links into your Family Search account. So basically, it will start creating questions about your own ancestors, easy to more difficult. And you can play along based on your own family tree, which is kind of fun. Family history reunions. A lot of great information here. Some tips about how to include family history in your family history reunions. Making family history. And as I scroll through these, I'll just pause for a second so you can skim through and just get a glance at these. You'll be able to study these more in depth and try them out, of course, on the actual website. Anything that's in blue, of course, is a link that takes you directly to the other website page or source for that particular activity. Documenting the past. I'm going to pause here. My Family Booklet. We have a close friend in one of our Facebook groups. His name is Armstrong, and he's in Nigeria. And he is a wonderful, wonderful man. He is responsible for family history and temple in most of the country of Nigeria. And because of the economic circumstances, he doesn't always have the computers and so forth that he needs. And so the My Family booklet for him has turned out to be very beneficial in getting the people in the stakes and wards where he works to be able to collect their information on paper. Social media activities. We'll talk a bit more about these when we get into the youth and the singles pages. Service activities. Activities for research, and sometimes we provide direct links back to the Family History Guide and the tracker for how-to information. And LDS Family History activities. We also have resources for parents. So these are more motivational, strategic, how do parents get their families interested and engaged with family history through activities. All right, that in a nutshell is the families page. Let's move over to singles, and this is young adults, single adults, and so forth. Again, we have our navigational header up here. The topics are pretty much the same as you saw before, but with some different activities. There is a little bit of duplication here and there in the activities pages when we feel that a particular activity might be good in a couple of categories instead of just one. Okay, anytime activities. Now, with young adults, young single adults and singles, one of the important things to keep in mind there is there's a great need for belonging, togetherness, and so forth. And so one of the cool activities that we found is called Find Your Relatives in the Room. This is actually from Family Search, the app that they have. And this blog post describes basically the instructions. So this is called Relatives Around Me, and it's pretty fun. Basically, a group of young adults, or it could be anyone with phones, would get together in a room, and their phones would scan each other within distance. The names would get populated by Family Search, and it would immediately hook into their app that they have for calculating your relatives and how you're related to someone else. And you can see kind of a chart here. So it's a pretty cool thing. It's great the way that Family Search has engaged in technology and in bringing mobile devices into people's lives to help them explore their own family history. Again, these always open in separate windows, so you can close them and still be back to where you were in the activities pages. All right, let's scroll down. Here's plan ahead activities. And you notice a lot of these have to do with getting together. Dining, learning, book clubs, parties, and so forth. Those are very important. I'm glad that Angel had the vision to kind of capture these and point them in that direction so that we would all be able to benefit from these types of focused activities. Making family history, documenting the past. Social media activities. Millennials and the phone, interesting. Using smartphones and other devices to capture stories. Here's some instructions and so forth. Service activities, activities for research, and LDS activities. Resources to help others. These are important for singles to be able to refer people to these articles and be able to give them some heads up and some advice on how to get started with their own family history and how to make more progress. Okay, let's move over to the youth section. And originally when we just had the children page, the youth basically would just go to the family history guide like I mentioned before. Now they have the option of kind of branching off on their own and finding activities that are interesting to them. So parents should still keep an eye on the activities, what's going on, and so forth. Some activities for the younger kids, they may need some parental guidance and coaching and so forth. And just to be aware, there are some websites that we refer to for activities that do have advertising on them. Now, we're very careful that the advertising is family related and so forth, but the Family History Guide itself does not have any advertising, so don't be dismayed if you run across a site with advertising on it. That's the way the things are done, but hopefully it should be clean and tasteful. Okay, so youth activities. Again, the same types of navigational headings up here. Anytime activities and games. Here's one that I'll focus on here. The Victoria Genealogical Society has some great activities here. Learning steps about talking to your family, growing your family tree, and so forth. So one note to remember is that a lot of these websites have subpages, other links, and so forth that are really good to explore. So instead of just reading this down and, okay, I've got the idea, you'll need to actually go out and explore what in the site resonates with you, with your youth, and so forth. And there's lots of good material here. So some sites are very cut and dried, just a few easy things to do, and others are more of an exploration. Plan ahead activities, back in time, back to the future. So this is a great activity for getting youth to relate to their parents. And here's some things. Discover what life was like for your ancestors with no electricity. So it relates to grandparents, great-grandparents, and beyond, because probably the parents all had electricity. But it helps kids get familiar with the songs that were popular with their parents and so forth. Good activities there. Honor your parents helps youth discover a little bit more about their parents, how they met, their dating and early married life, and so forth. Making Family History. There is a makefamilyhistory.org site. We saw the Street Views activity earlier on, and that's just one of many that are on that site. So you can see as we browse through these that there are a lot of cool possible activities there. And they're all laid out in that stepwise fashion, so they're pretty easy to follow. Documenting the past. Social media activities. Let's try this hashtags, tweets, and blogs. The thing that's nice about this blog post is that it has some areas that kids can explore on each of the different social media platforms. So the youth today are, by and large, pretty knowledgeable in social media. So we just need to help them realize the benefits of family history, how they can get engaged with it in social media, the blessings that it has for them and for their families, for their ancestors, and so forth. Service activities. Getting youth to go to cemeteries, not on Halloween, is a pretty cool thing. There's lots of genealogical information that can be captured there and can be done with smartphones and tablets. Activities for research, LDS family history activities, and that's youth. Then we'll move over to children. And the children page has gotten pretty much a makeover, so we put it into the new format. You'll notice that there are a few categories here, not as many as are in the other pages for family, singles, and youth, but it's organized in a similar fashion. So first of all, about family history. And some people want to know, well, is this something that kids could just dive in and use? And the answer pretty much is no, unless you've got some pretty advanced kids. So these are going to take parental guidance and explanation, preparation, and so forth. The idea is that the parents do the prep and select the activities and then involve the kids with them. That being said, I do know some very precocious kids that come over to family history centers and they want to know how to do research at age 8 and 9, and they are actually pretty good at it. So you never know. Each case is different. About family history, family tree activities, and let's concentrate on this family tree with family photographs. So we're going to click here and go to this website. This familylocket.com, I would highly recommend this as a great website and blog for family history activities, especially for youth and for kids. So they've got step-by-step activities for crafts and making things and so forth. You can get some great um, materials and projects assembled and involve the entire family, not just the kids, but it's great to have the kids be able to help out with these things as well. And again, step by step, what to do, and links to definitions and so forth. So really well done. Highly recommend familylocket.com, and it's free, of course. Okay, games and apps are always fun. Memories activities. Let's click on this one here, Arthur Family Fun. Now, get ready for something a little bit wild here.
Family history fun. Click the button to start.
Yippee!
This feature will help you introduce someone in your family. You can add their name and their picture. Then choose questions to ask them. When you're all done, print the interview to keep.
Yeah, pretty cool. So it takes kids through the interviewing process. What kind of questions? What kind of questions can they ask relatives, grandparents, and so forth? How do they organize them, get them recorded, and they can even get them printed out? So pretty nice. Games and apps, objects, heirlooms, miscellaneous activities. There are a lot, and you'll see some of these are going clear down to preschool ages, some of them older children, so forth. Don't eat Grandpa Pete. Motivation coaching and resources, very important for parents. So I'll go through and just read these for emphasis. Know the interests and limitations of children you're working with. So this applies not only to parents, but family history consultants who work with families, or church or school or community groups that might have children working to do some family history activities. It's important to know the interests and limitations of the children you're working with. Choose age-appropriate activities for learning. Keep the activity time brief. Be flexible. If a particular activity isn't working too well, have a backup in mind so you can switch seamlessly. Be attentive, watch for issues, and be positive and encouraging. Also, some resources for parents here on motivation and coaching and LDS Resources. Okay, that pretty much wraps up the page of walkthrough that we have for the activities for the Family History Guide. I'm going to go back to the slideshow here and go down one. You may be wondering, well, what's next? Is it finished and done? Not exactly. We have some other things in mind. The Family History Guide website, as you probably know, is a dynamic, evolving, changing website. We want it to be that way. We don't want it to get stale. We want the content to be fresh, but not only that, we want to introduce and add features that will help people do family history better, have it be more enjoyable, efficient, easy. So along with that, here's some things we're thinking of for the future for the activities pages in the Family History Guide. First of all, more great activities. If you have activities that you'd like to recommend, just send them to us via the contact link on our page. That's info@thefhguide.com. We'll be including tips for selected activities. Some of the activities are very clear cut. You can see just from reading through at a brief glance what the steps are and what you need to do, but others would benefit from some tips and some suggestions and so forth. So we plan to add some of those to ease the engagement in some of those activities. And we plan on creating an activities tracker. Now, some of you are probably familiar with the tracker that we have in the Family History Guide. This tracker would be different. It wouldn't be so much measuring skill levels of how well you can do this and that. It would be more like a tracker of what have we tried so far, what have we done, what are the experiences that we had, what did we learn, feedback, suggestions, this type of thing. So you can keep kind of a log of where you've been, what you've learned, and what worked well for you. And that wraps it up. Thank you so much for being here. The Family History Guide is here for you. If you have suggestions, please let us know. We're excited to be a nonprofit 501c3 organization now. We're looking forward to Roots Tech. There will be lots of fun additions to demonstrate there. Thank you all again.
All right, well, thank you very much, Bob, for the wonderful webinar. If anybody has any questions, feel free to write those into our questions box over on the right-hand side of your screen. We'd like to remind everyone this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted onto our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to receive notifications of when new videos are uploaded. Also follow us on our social media sites to stay up to date with things that are going on here at the library and things that we have going on in our webinar program. We'd like to ask everyone if you wouldn't mind just give us a little bit of feedback on today's presentation or anything regarding our webinar program. It's always appreciated, and we love to make sure this program is satisfying everybody's learning needs in regards to family history. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.